You're listening to the Hot Topics podcast with Psycho 4081, lovely lady Lamb Chop, and fabulous Felonious Feather. Let's get into it. Welcome everybody. Welcome back for part 2. This is part 2 of Adulting 101. And if you was here last time, please go check out the last episode, Adulting 101. It's part 1. And we're going to finish this up. So we talked about everything that a responsible adult should know. The do's, the haves, the accomplishments. You know, we talked about everything. So just as a recap, we talked about, life skills, legal and civic knowledge, social and emotional intelligence, daily and habitual practices, routine maintenance, relationship and community, financial milestones, personal development, social contributions, and character traits to cultivate. So that took care of everything you need to do, everything you needed to accomplish. And it was a handful. So if you do have an opportunity to check out the last episode, please do. And I'm Psycho 4081 here from the Hot Topics podcast, and is another solo episode. We'll pick up with the next one. Our co-host Lamb Chop, the lovely lady Lamb Chop, and the felonious Feather. She'll be back as well. But I'm going to wrap this one up today. Adulting 101, part 2. And we're going to talk about things to have, like key documents and records, financial essentials. We're going to talk about practical tools, household items. So, if you're having your own household, those are things you need to have just to be functional. We're going to talk about knowledge and resources, home and living essentials, transportation essentials. Unless you live like on Mount Everest or something along those lines, pretty much everybody needs some type of transportation. You don't have to always have a car, but you're going to need some type of transportation. And then there's the contingency and mobility issue, things to have when you have those things that pop up. We're going to talk about that. And this was a big one. And, I said on the last episode, there was a lot of things in this that I realized I did not do. Not that I didn't think about it at one point or another. It's just things that I did not do. And I really need to get on the ball with this. So we can't expect our younger people to do it if we're not doing it and showing them how to do it. So let's get this done. So getting into the key documents and records. First things first. You need a government issued ID. That means a driver's license, identification card, or passport. You should really have 2 of those things, a driver's license and a passport. You can't travel without a passport, so that makes you restricted. You can't go to Canada, you can't go to Mexico, you can't get out and do something. But you definitely need a photo ID, a government issue photo ID. You need a Social Security card or whatever the national equivalent is. I know they have, we call them Social Security cards for visa or people who are going through the process to be permanent residents. But you definitely want to have that. When I say have that, you was issued it when you was born here, but you need to have that available when you need it. That's a big difference. Birth certificate. Always have that available. Even if it's a copy, you want to put a copy someplace else also, because sometimes, people lose them, or you have to submit your birth certificate and you don't have it for a short period of time. So if you can get more than one official copy, that's great. And keep the one in the safe or something. You want to have, getting back to the birth certificate, even if you're not born here, you want the birth certificate of your country of origin. You want to have a health insurance card or the information for the health insurance card. Anytime you have any, medical assistance, any type of medical treatment, they're going to ask for your health insurance card. So make sure you have that. If you don't have it, then there's ways you can apply for it, but you need to have some type of medical insurance. Everybody in this country should have some type of medical insurance. And I know there's going to be a small percentage of people who it may not benefit them because of the cost, but at least you have some type of alternative. You want to keep your tax documents, and not just the current tax documents. You want probably the last, let's say 5 to 7 years. Let's say 7 years. But along those lines, you want to have all your 1099s, your W-2s, your receipts, your 10 whatever, any documents that you received that applies to filling out taxes, or that you used to fill out your tax forms. Keep that. You want your employment records, say pay stubs, contracts. You want to keep that with you. Educational records, transcripts. You want the sealed transcripts. Okay, that's a difference. If you're trying to apply for college and they ask you for transcripts, they want the sealed ones, and you get that from the school that you're submitting it from. And diplomas, copies of diplomas, any training that you've had, any certificates, anything along the lines that you've gotten to improve yourself in your educational journey. You want to keep your rental agreements, your mortgage documents. You never know when that might be needed. Rental agreements, definitely keep those handy because you need to know what's in there. If it comes to a time where you need to prove that you have, I'm going to say ownership, but you have control over a certain place, you want to have your lease available, and you want to have that as well for your home. And I can tell you why. And we never got a chance to do the actual episode, but one thing that can really happen and really set you off is when you get a squatter. Oh, squatters. Divorce, separation, all that. You want to make sure you have that there. And every responsible adult needs to have a will and or power of attorney. So it depends on what your situation is. You might need to have, I always forget the name of this. It's called a medical something, whereas, you want to identify somebody who makes that decision about your health or your life. If something was to happen to you and you can't give consent about something, like say, God forbid, you get into a car accident and you're a vegetable, or you have some type of disease and you don't want to be resuscitated, or you want somebody who's trusted to make those decisions for you. So you need to have that. All medical records and vaccination history, because you might switch insurance, you might switch states, you might switch countries, whatever. Employers not able to have that, but you might want to travel. You might want to go to someplace else and get medical care. They want to know your medical history, and everybody's not going to know every single time they went to the hospital or got treated and every shot they had and the date that they have it. But yeah, have that stuff available for you, especially vaccination history. If you want to travel, keep the vaccination cards, whatever you have, keep that available. It'll save you some money and save you maybe some more shots. And I did mention passports as we're talking about traveling. Get yourself a passport. Other things to have would be, let's look into the financial essentials. This is all the things you need when it comes to the money. Get this. You need a bank account, a checking and a savings. It could be at a credit union. It could be at a regular bank. It could be wherever you want it to be, but you need to have a bank account that you're going to do your transactions with and save. You know, if you want to get a certificate of deposit, all those, you need to have a bank account. And speaking of bank account, you can have multiple bank accounts, and I suggest having, even if it's at the same bank, you want to have different accounts so you can put more money in another account for your emergency funds. So if you can, if it's possible, it's not possible for a lot of people, but if you can, you want at least 3 to 6 months of expenses in your separate emergency fund. So you know your monthly expenses, whatever that is, whatever that number is, could be 2,000, 3,000. You want at least to keep 3 to 6 months of that. I said months. You want to keep 3 to 6 months of that in there in case something should happen, whether you go into the hospital or you get terminated from a job. Those things happen, you know, you never know. So that you want a budget, an actual physical budget that you can see, and a spending tracker. Now, you guys are lucky to be in the electronic age, the advanced technology age. You can have all of that right on your phone. You can have the spending tracker. I know if people have, what's that name of that group? Rocket Money, which is which is a good feature. Rocket Money, they have a spending tracker on there, and you can categorize all your expenses, your income coming in, what's tax deductible for taxes, what you want to save. Is a great app. So check it out if you can. I'm not sure if you have to have a mortgage with them, but it's worth the time to take a look. Maybe I need to drink water. Hold on a second. See, this is what happens when you have a co-host or two. You don't have to keep on talking and flapping your lips and drying your mouth out. You know, you can tag team. So I'm gonna make do for the time being. So you want a retirement account. I don't know how many times I've come across people or talked to people that say, I wish I would have put in to the 401k. I wish I had an IRA or a Roth IRA. I wish I got a pension and all these different things. You got to plan for the future. You know, you have the 401k, the 457. There's a lot of things out there that you can do or utilize for a retirement account. You know, don't live your life day to day, because at one point you never know what's going to happen in the future. And you want to get to a point where, let's say, prime example, you're going somewhere like, say, overseas, and you want to stay there. You say, oh, I like this place. Is the cost of living is less. I can live a luxurious life on this little bit of money that I had because I have a pension, or I have my 401k that's bringing me a regular income, or IRA that's going to be able to sustain me for the rest of my life. Look into that. Make sure if you're at a job and they don't have a retirement plan or anything like that, but get yourself a 401k, IRA. You could put money in an IRA. Credit card. Have at least one credit card with a decent amount that you can use on there, because a lot of places want to see credit cards, like hotels, car rentals, but sometimes you might be short on cash and that emergency comes up. You can utilize your credit card. And one thing that's good about a credit card is, if something was to happen, like say, you got people that carry a lot of cash or whatever, and you got a person up here who has the credit cards. If somebody comes up and robs you and takes all your cash, or you lose your cash, or you do whatever, it's gone. There's nobody out there that's going to assist you or can assist you. But if you have a credit card, at least you're protected from fraud and unauthorized purchases, things like that. Or even if you have a dispute with a vendor or somebody you bought something from, you can actually dispute the purchase with your credit card company. So you want to have a credit card, at least one. Investment accounts. There's plenty of those out there. Just pick one. Mutual funds, which is good. If you're not knowledgeable in it, seek somebody who is. But yeah, definitely want to have that. That'll actually grow your money. And you want to have insurance. When I said you want to have it, but you want to have it available to use when you need it. So that means health insurance, auto insurance if it applies, renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance. I mean, if you're living in an apartment, please have renter's insurance. Anything can happen, even things that's not your fault. Somebody from the 2 apartments over happens, let's say a fire or whatever, a flood, and your stuff is damaged and it's costing you a lot of money. Guess what? If you don't have renter's insurance, you're butt out in the wind. So definitely want to have that. Life insurance. And there's gonna be people that say, well, what I care about life insurance, I'm gone. Yeah, but don't be a burden to your family or your loved ones when you leave. Plan on that. Give them something to do with it, or at least cover your funeral expenses, your burial expenses. That costs, and it's not cheap. Get you some life insurance, and there's different types of life insurance out there that you can have, and this has a cash value, and they'll get somebody to come in and talk about that. Not a big deal, but you definitely want to have some type of life insurance. You owe it to your kids, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your loved ones, whomever. Get some. And with that said, you want some disability insurance, because you could be out of work because of an injury, and if you don't have the type of job that pays you when you're out, like you have sick leave and all that type stuff, you want to have some type of disability insurance. And if you're working, there's things you can add on there. It's like Aflac, and what was it? It was another one, but there's a few out there that works like every time that you're out, you have a hospital visit or you're out for a long period of time, they'll actually pay you according to their plan or whatever one you signed up for. They'll pay you, and at least that gives you some money to hold on while you're out. It could be used for food or even covering some bills, whatever it is, depends on what you select, but definitely try to get you some disability insurance. Now, going back to the household, we already talked about the job place, and that's kind of inferred, the job. We're going to talk about the home. What things do you need in the home? Now, if you've had a home or have a home or even an apartment, you need a basic toolkit. Okay, Psycho 4081, what's in the basic toolkit? Now, you need a hammer, you need a screwdriver set, and you want to have the different sizes, obviously, and you want the one that's the cross tip, and the Phillips head, that's the one that looks like a star at the tip, and the flat head is the one that looks like a flat head, the one a lot of y'all use a butter knife for. Yeah, that. You want some pliers, you want an Allen wrench set. They're cheap. All these things are really cheap. You can get that, put it in a little box, and keep that on hand. So you definitely want that, because I know you want to need it for hanging curtains, blinds, doing little minor repairs, maybe even for knobs on the cabinet doors, many things. Number 2, you want a first aid kit. Now, the thing about a first aid kit, when you buy them, they usually come with everything you need for basic first aid. But you do want to make sure that you keep up with what's in there. You can add your own things in there, like alcohol, Neosporin, all these little things that you might need. But check the dates. You have to have it regularly checked to make sure that things aren't expired. I had a first aid kit and had all this stuff in there. I was like, if something was going to happen, I'm ready. I'm going to have everything in here that you could use except for surgery. But a lot of stuff expires. So you have to make sure that you check that. Even if you put like medication like aspirins and anything along those lines, things expire. 3, good to have a fire extinguisher, and I think you get discounts, I believe, if you have a fire extinguisher in your kitchen. That's always good to have, because you'll have that person that wants to cook and got grease flying all over the place, and next thing you know, you got a little fire, and they decide to throw water on a grease fire, or fan it with some paper towels, something stupid like that. So you have that. But if you have a fire extinguisher, you can go and it's done. It's good. You want a working smoke detector and carbon monoxide detector. Now, smoke detector, in some places it's mandatory. You have to have one that's installed. In some places you do, but you want to make sure you check the batteries to make sure that batteries are fresh. And please stop the chirp, chirp, chirp. We all have done it at one point or another. But yeah, get that taken care of. Now, the carbon monoxide detector, that's super important because carbon monoxide poisoning is odorless. So you can have the carbon monoxide coming through your home, most likely from your furnace, obviously, and you'll never know it until people start dropping off, and then stuff happens. So get you a carbon monoxide detector. Number 5, you want a flashlight with spare batteries. I needed one today. So I was going down in the basement to check breakers, and I used a flashlight on my phone, but I was like, I should have got my flashlight. But yeah, that's definitely needed, because let's say you have a blackout. It's okay in the daytime sometimes, but you'll need that flashlight at night or in places that have low light. Basic cleaning supplies. Now, for me in my home, this is what you need. This is what I'm going to say what I have. Glass cleaner. You want a degreaser for the kitchen. That 409 spray or something equivalent to that. You want cleaner for the bathroom. You want cleaners for the floors. Like if you have carpet, you want some spot cleaners. Well, I think they call them spot removers. You want some spot removers. OxyClean is really good getting up those spots. So if you have some OxyClean, try that out. What else is good? Pine Sol, bleach. Some people don't like working with bleach, but bleach is good for some things. Let's see. Yeah, and of course, the associated things that come with that. You want the sponges. You want the dishcloths. You want the scouring pads. What do we call it? SOS pads. Still something. But yeah, get some of those. Of course, trash bags. Let me see what else could go in under basic cleaning supplies. I use paper towels for a lot of things too. Like even when I'm wiping down mirrors, I use paper towels. So you want to include that in there. You might want to use some hand soap. And let's see, a thermometer. This thermometer can actually go in your first aid kit or in the bathroom. But you want the thermometer. There's different types of thermometers you can get. You can get the one that's mercury filled, the old school one, where you see the little red line that comes up that you can barely see half the time, or you can get one that's electronic. That's good. Now once you keep the battery up, and they even have the ones that looks like a temperature gun that you point and shoot, and it'll you put it at your forehead and it'll tell you your temperature. So I like the electronic ones. Actually, I have both. I don't really want to mess with the mercury filled ones because you might have kids that like to play with stuff like I did when I was a kid and put that thermometer in some boiling water and watch it pop. Then you got mercury all in your boiled corn. But that's another story. So let's see. Oh, speaking of talking about power outages, number 7, you want number 8, you want a phone charger. Have a spare phone charger. Because if you have an iPhone, I'm gonna tell you this. Let me put iPhone on blast. Those cords don't last more than 6 months half the time, and don't get one from Five Below. They last about 30 days. But get your phone charger or a power bank that you can take, out of the house or even in the house, where have you. But that's always good to have. And then this is undervalued as well and overlooked. Important contact list. Now, back in the day, we used to have that. I think you used to put stuff like that on a refrigerator, and who to call if something was to happen, you always had the neighbor or grandma or whoever. You need to have a contact list. Have one printed. You definitely want to have one printed. Have one digitized. Put on a thumb drive or a computer. Something that people can access. You definitely want to have that because it's not just for you; it's for everybody. Now, getting into knowledge and resources. Knowledge and resources. You want to have access to healthcare providers. So have that available, because don't just pick the first one you see, or somebody told you, oh, go get this. You want to have a list, unless it's like employer healthcare or something along those lines. But you want to seek out different healthcare providers. You might want to shop around for doctors, specialists, whatever. Dentists, pharmacies, Pharmacies can be really, really expensive and sometimes inconvenient, but there's ones that's not too expensive and convenient. Just look them up. I don't want to endorse any particular company, but they're out there. Mental health support. Everybody needs a therapist. Let me say that again. Everybody needs a therapist. Therapists need a therapist. So have that handy. Even if you feel you don't need one, have it handy, because you never know. Or access to one of them hotlines. You need to know or have an understanding of how to file taxes. We talked about that, keeping records and stuff like that. Or know how to contact an accountant or tax preparer. H&R Block is a big one, but they have plenty of tax preparers out there. Plenty. You need to know how to vote and where. So before you do all that, you have to register to vote. And when you go register to vote, they'll tell you, because you have to put your address on there, and it'll, tell you where you need to be or which district you're in. And who are your representatives? You would need to look that up. Make sure you have a way to look that up. Voting is important, obviously, especially today. Don't underestimate the power of your vote. I say with a capital H, I hate when people say my vote don't count. And I'm going to say it doesn't, because you don't vote. Yeah, it doesn't count. That means you don't have the right to complain. You don't have the right to challenge anything. So vote. You want to have contacts for legal help if needed. An attorney, prepaid legal for some, but have an attorney available that you can call. A bail bondsman that you can call just in case. But you never know what situation you'll be in that, everybody needs legal help here and there. I don't know anybody who has not ever needed legal help. So it's good to have one on hand. If you're in the Baltimore area, I could recommend a few. Got Collins Legal Group. Look them up, Google them. Pretty good with handling a plethora of things. Speaking of which, you'll also need a good, reliable network of people. Let me say that differently. You need a network of reliable people. Friends, co-workers, family members, neighbors. You need to know who you can go to for information, for quick help. Like say, I need to get my kid from the daycare, or my kid from the picked up from preschool, whatever it is. Have a network that can help you out at different times. Now, I want to get back to the home again, and this is a little bit different from things that happen in the home, but this is things about the home. And again, these are things that every responsible adult should have, do, accomplish, whatever. A stable living situation. Get your own place. Don't go from place to place. I'm gonna stay with this person for a while, because anytime you stay with somebody, an argument can happen, and next thing you know, you're getting put out in the middle of the night. A stable living situation. Go ahead and pay your rent on time. Get you an apartment. Buy a house. That's number one. You want to have a functional phone and internet access. You're lucky enough today that we have the internet and we have these smartphones. 5G, whatever it is, it's easy to have. Everybody has access to that, even kids. Make sure you have a functional phone and internet access, because a lot of things you need to have internet access just to make your life easier, whether it be paying a bill, getting certain information, plugging in to information circles, very important. Even having a news app on your phone that's going to give you alerts. Nothing better than having up-to-date things that's going to affect you, especially when it comes to your safety. You want to have appropriate furniture. Well, Psycho 4081, what is appropriate furniture? Well, you need a bed. You need a bed, and not the ones that's going to have your back hurting. So choose a nice bed. It don't have to be fancy or expensive, but get you a decent mattress that's not going to have your back hurting. Simple enough. You want a table and you want a chair. More than one chair is advisable, but get you a table so you can sit down and have your meal. I'm not saying, you notice I didn't mention anything about the living room, sofa, love seat, whatever. I didn't mention any of that because a lot of times people don't even use it and it's not really a necessity. But, get you some reliable furniture. And let's see. Oh, obviously you're going to need light, lamps, depends on your situation. But, it could be a lot of things in there. But you definitely just need to have a bed, table, and, things that make you comfortable. You want basic cooking equipment, pots, pans, good cutlery, silverware or utensils, measuring cups. People forget about those. Plates, cups. Okay. You can make it easy too by getting things like an air fryer, pressure cooker, the multi-function pressure cooker, the one that acts as a slow cooker, pressure cooker, and whatever else. And a nice blender. Yes, get you a blender. And you want clean clothes for different occasions. Somebody call you and say, hey, let's go out to such and such. Have a set of clothes that you can go out. Not just the regular homeless wear that I usually wear, but you want to have clothes for like work, different types of weather, different types of events, and even emergencies. And comfortable clothes. You want comfort clothes. Now, I'm going to give you a situation story. It was wintertime, and let's say, this is a scenario. I'm not saying it's true or not, but this is a scenario. Let's say it's wintertime and the power goes out and it's really, really cold. And obviously the furnace is out and you don't have a fireplace. So we say appropriate clothing. You want to have that warm clothing, the thick pajamas, the Under Armour stuff, and you want to have that comforter, a weighted blanket, which I love. That's not necessary, but I love it anyway. Those are the things you need for a different occasion. Not just clothes, but I wanted to throw that in there. Then you have your transportation essentials. You need your valid driver's license, or if you're not driving, get you a transit pass, like a bus pass, like one that you can use every month, or I think they do monthly. But get you a bus pass. And if you do have a license, get a car or bicycle. When I say car, that includes motorcycles too. And if that's not feasible, at least have knowledge of the public transportation system, like where the buses go, where you can catch a bus, how much is it. I can tell you now, in my area, I don't know how much a bus costs. I don't know where they go. I don't know anything about the bus. But if you're not driving or riding a bike everywhere, then you need to know how the buses run. And with that, you need to have car insurance and registration. So don't have a vehicle and it's not insured or is not registered, and you're driving around here being a hazard to everybody. With that said, you need an emergency kit in your vehicle. Like, everybody needs jumper cables. Please have jumper cables. Everybody, at some point or another, you're going to need a jump, or somebody else is going to need a jump. Have some jumper cables and a spare tire, maybe some light sticks. And you can also have an emergency kit in there, like a first aid and something like, say, if you're in a cold area, something happens. I'm looking at all of those scenarios I see on TV. Car breaks down, you're in a snowstorm, you're stuck. Have something like water or high energy bar in a blanket. You can roll all that stuff into a nice little convenient bag and leave in your trunk. And lastly, speaking of mobility and emergencies, a go bag or emergency bag. And what's in a go bag or an emergency bag is some of the things I mentioned earlier. You want to have things like, say, if a hurricane's coming, what can you grab if you need to flee the house quickly? You know those essential items. One, you're going to need some cash on you, because if power goes out and you need to pay for something, you need to have a little bit of cash. I'm not saying a whole lot, but you just need to have some cash. Put that in a go bag. And I recommend a backpack. So you can just throw that backpack on and it has everything in there. Put some of your emergency or important documents into copies of it at least, into a Ziploc bag. Throw that in there. You want to take your passport in case you're already overseas, obviously, or you need to get overseas. You want a change of clothes, and you want to have basic toiletries, easily stored food items. And the word we call it lost me. God, I can't remember. But anyways, stuff that's not going to spoil. You can keep candy bars for a while. Those high energy, the high calorie things. Car insurance, registration. You want to keep that in there. Let's see what else. All right, this thing was in my bag. So I got the little foil blankets, water bottles, flashlights, the Swiss Army knife, first aid kit, reflecting items, even if it's tape that you can tape around the people you're with or yourself. If you're in the middle of a storm, you can put the tape around your sleeve of your coat in the back. I mentioned flashlights, flares. That's pretty much it, I think. Rope, mad rope. And for some, I do recommend having we call them things, pistola, if you're legally able to have one. My go bag is going to have a weapon. So yes, it's going to have weapon. It's going to have water. It's going to have, you might even throw in there some, we call it those little tablets that clean the water, that disinfects water in case you need to get water. And they also have these little containers, these straws that you can actually drink dirty water and it cleans the water. So there's a lot of things out there. Get creative. And definitely a change of clothes, underwear. You can get those little ponchos that fit in a little 3-inch square that you can fold it, unfolds, and you got your convenient poncho. So those are things you want in a go bag. And if something was to happen, you could say, hey, we need to go now. Go grab your backpack, throw it on your back, get in the car, and let's go. And if you do know that because hurricanes don't just happen overnight, but you do know that if a hurricane is coming, there's certain things that you need to do to prepare for that as well. We won't talk about that here. That's going to be in a disaster preparedness segment or episode. But I will say that if you do have that go bag and you know that the storm is coming, you want to top off in gas. Make sure that all those lights that you ignored, you want to make sure you have that taken care of. You want to have your tires properly inflated. And also charge up all electronics that you have, all the phones. Charge them up. Because a lot of times that they'll have power outages and you got all this food in your freezer. You could turn the thermostat down to make it colder, and make sure you keep everything in there and don't keep opening and closing the refrigerator or the freezer, so it'll last longer. If you have access to some dry ice in a cooler, that's good too. But yeah, those are things we'll talk about in disaster preparedness. So that's pretty much it. I know it was a lot. And again, I don't expect everybody to have everything on here, but that's something that you can work on. So this is episode 2 of Adulting 101. So please review episode 1 and this one. Obviously you can't get that unless you're listening to me anyway. So we'll, ignore that and try to work on that, and it'll, make you feel more safe and secure and think about yourself and your loved ones. So if you have any questions, you can go to www.hottopics, that's TOPIX podcast, hottopicspodcast.com, and leave us a comment or email us, hottopicspodcast@gmail.com. I'll be happy to hear what you have to say. Any comments, anything you want to add, I would appreciate it. Oh, let me get a word of the day. Since we have some great prizes for the monthly winner. So the word of the day is grown up. Grown up. That's the word of the day. So review all the podcast episodes for the month of August, and at the end, send us an email to hottopicspodcast.com with the words of the day or words of the episode, however you want to call it. And email us. Everything's timestamped, so the first one that gets all the words, you will win, and we'll notify you via email or reply to your email that you won, and we'll arrange it where you can come get your prizes. So thank you for listening. It's been wonderful, and I'll catch you with the next one.
Thank you, family, for listening to the latest episode of Hot Topics. As usual, listen, like, share, subscribe. Ta!